The envelope arrived on a rainy Tuesday. Cream-colored paper, gold edges, my name written in Claire's careful handwriting. For one foolish second, my heart believed it was another chance. It wasn't. I slid a finger under the seal and unfolded the invitation. Claire Bennett and Nathan Sinclair request the honor of your presence. The date blurred. 3 months. Only 3 months after 6 years together had ended. A small folded note slipped onto my kitchen table. I already knew it would hurt. Still, I opened it. Thank you for understanding that love alone wasn't enough. I truly hope one day you'll forgive me. That single sentence cut deeper than the breakup itself. Understanding. She thanked me for understanding. As if watching the woman I wanted to marry choose another man was something mature people simply accepted. The coffee beside me had gone cold. I stared at the ring box hidden inside my kitchen drawer. It was still there. The engagement ring I never got to give her. For weeks after she left, I had imagined different endings. Maybe she would come back. Maybe she had made a mistake. Maybe she still loved me. The invitation buried every one of those lies. I laughed, not because anything was funny, because if I didn't laugh, I might finally admit how broken I still was. My phone vibrated. Olivia, you opened it. Yeah. A long breath came through the speaker. So, they're getting married. I know. No, they're really getting married. She stayed quiet for a moment. You don't have to go. My eyes remained on Claire's handwriting. I think I do. Ethan, I need to see it with my own eyes. You think it'll give you closure? I don't know. Another pause. I just don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering. The wedding venue looked like something from a dream. White flowers, crystal lights. A string quartet played softly while guests laughed over glasses of champagne. Everything looked perfect, exactly the kind of wedding Claire always planned. Elegant, expensive, controlled. I adjusted my tie and stepped inside. Several familiar faces recognized me. Their smiles disappeared almost immediately. No one knew whether to greet me or avoid me. I didn't blame them. Neither option felt comfortable. Daniel found me near the entrance. Claire's older brother wrapped me in a quick hug. I wasn't sure you'd come. Neither was I. He studied my face. You okay? I'll survive. His smile carried more sadness than hope. I wish things had been different. So do I. Someone called his name from across the room. Before leaving, he squeezed my shoulder. Take care of yourself today. I'll try. Then I saw her. Claire stood at the end of the hallway, wearing the wedding dress I once imagined buying with her. She looked beautiful, beautiful enough to stop the room, beautiful enough to remind me why I had ignored every warning sign for 6 years. She noticed me. For a second, everything else disappeared. The music, the guests, the noise. Only the distance between us remained. She walked closer. I didn't think you'd actually come. I almost didn't. Her eyes searched mine. I'm glad you're here. Those words would have meant everything once. Now, they felt strangely empty. You look happy. A tiny smile appeared. I'm trying. Not happy. Trying. Someone called her name. She gave a small nod before turning away. My eyes followed her until she disappeared behind the bridal suite door. The empty space she left somehow hurt more than seeing her. The ceremony should have started 15 minutes earlier. Instead, whispers spread through the crowd. The musicians stopped playing. Wedding staff hurried through the halls. Phones appeared. Confused guests stood from their chairs. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Daniel rushed across the room. Ethan, what happened? Nathan's gone. What do you mean gone? No one's seen him for almost 40 minutes. He left. We don't know. His face had turned pale. Claire's falling apart. Before I could answer, another wedding coordinator hurried toward me. Miss Bennett wants to see you. My stomach tightened. Me? Right now? The bridal suite door closed behind me. Claire stood beside the mirror. Mascara stained the corner of one eye. Her hands trembled while clutching a bouquet that had already started losing petals. She looked nothing like the woman who had smiled across the hallway. I need your help. No hello. No apology. No explanation. Just another request. Old habits almost pulled me forward. For years, whenever Claire struggled, I fixed things. Broken plans. Family arguments. Career problems. Late-night panic attacks. I carry them all because loving her had always felt more important than protecting myself. She stepped closer. Please. What happened? Nathan disappeared. I heard. I've called him 23 times. Her voice cracked. He won't answer. What about his family? No one knows anything. She grabbed both of my hands before I could react. I need you. Those 3 words almost shattered every wall I'd spent months building. Then another sentence followed. You always know what to do. Not, I miss you. Not, I was wrong. Not, I still love you. Only, you always fix everything. My heart finally understood something my mind had refused to accept. She wasn't reaching for me. She was reaching for the version of me that solved her problems. I slowly pulled my hands free. What exactly do you want? Find him. She struggled to steady her breathing. If the guests find out before the ceremony, our family will be humiliated. She nodded immediately. Please. My eyes wandered across the room. Legal documents rested on a nearby table. Beside them lay 2 wedding rings. One waited inside its velvet box. Untouched, strangely lonely. My phone buzzed again inside my pocket. The screen lit up. Unread messages. Months of conversations with Claire. Questions that never received answers. Words she never bothered reading before ending us. I didn't delete them. Maybe because some part of me kept hoping. Now they looked like ghosts trapped inside glass. Claire noticed my silence. Ethan, is that why you called me? Confusion crossed her face. What? Because I'm useful. Her lips parted. Nothing came out. That silence answered more honestly than any words could have. A loud knock interrupted us. One of the coordinators opened the door slightly. We still can't find Mr. Sinclair. Panic flashed across Claire's face again. The coordinator hurried away. Claire covered her mouth. I can't lose everything today. I believed her. She truly thought today was about losing everything. She still didn't realize she had already lost the only person who loved her without conditions. Something caught my attention near the dressing table. A phone. Black. Expensive. Not Claire's. Nathan's. Everyone had been searching for him. Yet his phone was sitting here, hidden behind a stack of folded ceremony programs. No one else seemed to notice. While Claire buried her face in her hands, I quietly slipped the phone into my jacket pocket. My decision came without anger, without revenge, without hesitation. I'll help. Relief rushed across her face. I knew I could count on you. Those words would have once made me proud. Now they only confirmed everything. She still believed I existed to rescue her. I walked toward the door. This time, I wasn't planning to save her perfect wedding. I was going to save the truth buried underneath it. As the door closed behind me, Nathan's phone felt heavier than any secret I had ever carried. Someone had hidden it on purpose. And whatever waited inside that device had the power to destroy this wedding before the sun went down. Nathan's phone burned against my chest as I stepped into the empty hallway. The wedding music had started again, but it sounded forced now. Smiles had become whispers. Laughter had turned into questions. Every guest could sense something was wrong, even if no one dared to say it out loud. I slipped into a quiet corner near the back garden and pulled out the phone. The screen stayed dark. Locked. Of course it was. I tried a few simple numbers. Nothing. A message popped on my own phone. Olivia, how's the disaster? I called her immediately. She answered before the first ring finished. Please tell me you already left. I found Nathan's phone. A pause. You what? It was hidden inside Claire's bridal suite. Her voice sharpened. Hidden behind a stack of ceremony programs. That doesn't sound like someone forgot it. It doesn't. I leaned against the wall. Can you help me unlock it? Meet me by the parking lot. 10 minutes. Olivia arrived with her laptop tucked under one arm. She didn't waste time asking how I was feeling. That was one thing I always admired about her. She cared enough to help before offering comfort. She took the phone from my hand. No fingerprints. Wiped clean. Looks that way. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. Let's hope Nathan cared more about convenience than security. A few minutes passed. Then the screen unlocked. She smiled. There it is. I let out a slow breath. What do we have? Instead of wedding photos or honeymoon plans, the screen filled with banking apps, encrypted messages, and missed calls from unknown numbers. Olivia frowned. This isn't normal. She opened one message. A short sentence appeared. Leave before noon. They're coming. Another message followed. Don't bring the documents. Destroy them. The air suddenly felt heavier. Who's sending these? I don't recognize the number. She kept scrolling. Transaction after transaction appeared. Large amounts of money. Different accounts. Different cities. None of it looked clean. He's moving money everywhere. My stomach twisted. This doesn't look like business. It isn't. She turned the screen toward me. These transfers are meant to hide where the money came from. I stared at the numbers. Millions. Nathan hadn't simply borrowed money. Someone was chasing it. Daniel found us before I could think clearly. He looked exhausted. Claire's barely holding herself together. He stopped after noticing the phone. Where did you get that? It was in the bridal suite. His eyebrows pulled together. Why would Nathan leave his phone? I don't think he did. Olivia turned the screen toward him. You should see this. Daniel read quietly. His face slowly lost its color. I've seen this company name before. He pointed toward one file. Sinclair Holdings. You know it. I saw paperwork a few months ago. His voice lowered. Claire wanted my opinion. What happened? I told her something fell off, and a bitter laugh escaped him. She told me I was jealous because Nathan was successful. Those words hit harder than I expected. Not because they surprised me, because I had heard something almost identical. 1 year earlier, Claire and I had been eating dinner. Nathan's name came up during a conversation with friends. I mentioned hearing rumors about his business. She smiled without even thinking. Not everyone who succeeds is dishonest, Ethan. That night I apologized. Today I wished I hadn't. The wedding coordinator hurried across the garden. There you are. Daniel straightened. What now? Guests are demanding answers. Another deep breath. Miss Bennett wants everyone to believe the ceremony is only delayed. How long can she keep that story alive? The coordinator's eyes filled with worry. Not much longer. She hurried away before anyone else could stop her. Daniel rubbed his forehead. This is turning into a nightmare. It already is. We moved into an empty conference room inside the venue. Olivia connected her laptop. File after file appeared on the screen. Loans, transfers, fake companies, hidden accounts. Each discovery answered one question and created 3 more. Then another folder opened. Its name froze me. Wedding assets. Inside were contracts connected to today's ceremony. Venue payments. Luxury vendors. Insurance papers. Claire's name appeared again and again. Something felt wrong. Olivia clicked another document. Her expression changed instantly. Ethan, what? She zoomed in. This signature. I stepped closer. Claire Bennett. But something about it looked strange. The letters were too sharp. The curves too stiff. Daniel leaned over the desk. That's not her handwriting. You sure? I've watched my sister sign birthday cards for 30 years. He shook his head. This is fake. Olivia compared it with another document. No doubt. Someone had forged Claire's signature. A loud crash echoed outside. Guests had started arguing. The calm wedding atmosphere had completely disappeared. People crowded the lobby. Phones pointed toward the entrance. Rumors spread faster than facts. I walked toward the ballroom. Claire stood on the small stage with a microphone in her hand. She forced a smile that fooled no one. Thank you all for your patience. Her fingers tightened around the microphone. We're experiencing a small delay. A voice interrupted from the crowd. Where's the groom? Another guest joined in. Is the wedding canceled? Questions came from every direction. Claire kept smiling. Barely. I promise everything is under control. Even from across the room, I could see the fear behind her eyes. Control was the one thing she had always valued most. Now it was slipping away in front of hundreds of people. She spotted me standing near the doorway. Hope flashed across her face. She hurried over. Did you find him? No. You have to keep looking. I found something else. What? Can we talk somewhere private? She nodded immediately. Inside a small office, I placed Nathan's phone on the desk. Her eyes widened. Where did you get that? It was hidden in your room. She stared at it as if it might suddenly explain everything. That doesn't make sense. It does if someone didn't want it found. She folded her arms. What are you trying to tell me? I placed several printed documents beside the phone. There are secret bank transfers. She barely glanced at them. Nathan owns businesses. Claire, There has to be another explanation. I took a slow breath. Hidden debts. No. Fake companies. Stop. Messages warning him to run. Her head moved from side to side. You're wrong. I wish I was. She stepped backward until her shoulders touched the wall. This is because you never liked him. It isn't. You were jealous. The word landed like a punch. Months ago, I would have defended myself. Today, I simply opened another file. Read this. She refused. You've already decided he's guilty. I decided nothing. The phone buzzed. A new message appeared. Too late. Leave now. Police know everything. Claire read it before I could hide the screen. The color drained from her face. Her breathing became uneven. No. Olivia quietly placed one final folder onto the desk. We found this too. Claire opened it with shaking hands. Inside were financial records connected to her wedding. She turned the first page. Her eyes stopped moving. That's... Daniel stepped beside her. Claire, that's my signature. He gently shook his head. No, it isn't. She looked again, longer this time. Then the truth reached her. Someone had copied her name, used it, built everything around it. The sound of tires screeching outside broke the moment. Several police vehicles pulled into the wedding venue. Blue lights flashed through the office windows. Claire stood frozen, still holding the file. The forged signature stared back at her. And for the first time since I had known her, pride gave way to doubt. Blue lights flashed across the ballroom windows. The music stopped. Every conversation died in the same heartbeat. Guests turned toward the entrance as two investigators walked inside, with several police officers close behind. Nobody touched their drinks anymore. Nobody smiled. Claire stood frozen beside the office door, still holding the folder with the forged signature. Daniel stepped closer to her. Stay here. She barely nodded. Her hands had started shaking again. One of the investigators spoke with the wedding manager. A few quiet words. A quick look around the room. Then his eyes settled on me. You must be Ethan Carter. I am. We'd like a word. Claire's voice finally broke through the tension. What's happening? The investigator remained calm. We're looking for Nathan Sinclair. He's missing. We know. The man opened a thin file. We also know he was informed this morning that a warrant was being prepared. Claire blinked. A warrant. He is under investigation for financial fraud, money laundering, and document forgery. Her lips parted. Nothing came out. I reached into my jacket and placed Nathan's phone on the table. I found this. The investigator stared at it. Where? Hidden inside the bridal suite. He exchanged a quick glance with his partner. You've done the right thing. Claire turned toward me. You gave him his phone? I did. You didn't even tell me. If I had, would you have let me? She lowered her eyes. The answer was already written across her face. The investigators copied the files from Olivia's laptop. Every transfer, every hidden account, every message warning Nathan to run. One officer looked up from the screen. This is enough to move immediately. Daniel folded his arms. So he really planned all of this? The investigator nodded. It appears he intended to disappear before today's ceremony. Claire whispered the words as if they belonged to someone else's life. He was never coming back. Nobody answered. Nobody needed to. A security guard rushed through the entrance. We found him. Every head turned. Where? He tried to enter through the underground parking garage. My heartbeat slowed instead of racing. The waiting was over. Nathan walked into the ballroom, surrounded by two officers. His expensive suit looked perfect. His confidence didn't. The smile he usually wore had vanished. His eyes searched the room until they found Claire. Claire! She didn't move. I can explain. One investigator stepped between them. You'll have that opportunity. Nathan pointed toward me. He stole my phone. I found it. You had no right. You left it behind. I didn't leave anything. The investigator lifted the phone. It was hidden. Nathan's expression changed. Only for a second. But I caught it. Fear. Real fear. Guests gathered around the ballroom. Business partners whispered to one another. Family members stood in complete disbelief. The perfect wedding had become a public investigation. Nathan tried one last time. This is all a misunderstanding. Olivia quietly opened her laptop. I don't think forged signatures count as misunderstandings. She turned the screen toward the investigators. Bank transfers filled the display. Nathan's smile disappeared completely. You hacked my private files. They became evidence the moment they proved criminal activity. He looked toward Claire again. Don't believe this. She held up the document with her forged signature. My name. Her voice trembled. You signed my name. It was only paperwork. You forged my signature. I was protecting us. There was never US, was there? He stayed quiet. That silence carried more truth than any confession. Margaret Bennett pushed through the crowd. She looked from Claire to Nathan, then to the investigators. Someone tell me this isn't real. Claire slowly handed her the file. Margaret's face drained of color after reading only the first page. You used my daughter? Nathan tried to step closer. I can explain everything. She raised one hand. Don't. That single word echoed through the ballroom. Years ago, Margaret had encouraged Claire to choose security over love. Today, security stood in handcuffs. The lead investigator addressed everyone in the room. Mr. Sinclair is being detained as our investigation continues. A wave of whispers swept across the guests. Phones appeared everywhere. Someone started recording. Nathan noticed. This isn't over. He looked directly at me. You think you've won? I met his stare without raising my voice. This was never about winning. The officers guided him toward the exit. Halfway across the ballroom, he stopped struggling, almost as if he finally understood there was nowhere left to run. The doors closed behind him. The room stayed painfully still. The wedding planner approached Claire with slow steps. What would you like us to do? She stared at the decorated aisle. White flowers, candles, rows of waiting chairs. Everything had been built for a future that no longer existed. Her fingers loosened around the bouquet. It slipped from her hands. Soft white roses scattered across the polished floor. Nobody rushed to pick them up. The planner quietly reached for the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice cracked. The ceremony has been canceled. A few guests quietly left. Others remained standing, unable to process what they had witnessed. The large display screen behind the stage still showed a smiling engagement photo of Claire and Nathan. One technician climbed onto the stage. A click. The picture disappeared. The blank screen somehow hurt more than the photograph itself. Near the altar, the marriage papers rested on a small wooden table. Claire walked toward them without speaking. She picked them up. Read the first page, then the second. Her eyes stopped at the forged signature again. A slow breath escaped her. She tore the papers straight down the middle. Once, then again. The pieces drifted onto the white carpet like broken promises. Nobody tried to stop her. The guests continued leaving. The beautiful ballroom slowly became empty. An aisle built for celebration now led nowhere. I stood alone near the entrance. 6 years of memories passed through my mind. The first apartment we shared. Late-night pizza after work. Road trips. Birthday surprises. Arguments. Promises. Dreams about a future that never arrived. Nathan's arrest should have felt satisfying. Instead, all I felt was tired. Truth had won. My heart hadn't. Claire walked toward me slowly. Her wedding dress no longer looked elegant. It looked heavy, almost impossible to carry. She stopped a few feet away. You warned me. I stayed quiet. More than once. Another long pause. I thought you were jealous. I know. I thought Nathan could give me everything. She glanced around the empty ballroom. I never stopped to ask what he might take away. I remembered every conversation she had ended because she believed I was overreacting. Every concern she brushed aside. Every time, love lost to appearance. None of it mattered now. The damage had already been done. Daniel walked over and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Our driver is waiting. I'll be there. He nodded and left us alone. Claire reached in her pocket and pulled out my old apartment key. She had carried it all day, even to her wedding. I was going to return this after the honeymoon. She placed it in my palm. The cold metal felt strangely familiar. I don't deserve another chance. Her voice almost disappeared. But I need to know something. She searched my face with eyes that no longer held pride. Only regret. Is there still any path back to us? The ballroom had emptied. The flowers were fading. Pieces of torn marriage papers rested across the white aisle. My fingers closed around the old key. The answer waited on my lips, and I knew whatever came next would decide not only her future, but mine as well. 3 weeks passed after the wedding that never happened. Life kept moving. The world refused to stop just because mine had changed. Every morning, I woke up expecting to replay the same memories. Instead, something different happened. They still hurt. They just didn't control every breath anymore. My apartment felt strangely larger. There were no late-night arguments. No waiting for a message that might never come. No checking my phone every 10 minutes, hoping Claire had changed her mind. The quiet no longer felt like loneliness. It felt like space. Space to remember who I had been before I spent 6 years trying to become enough for someone else. Work became my escape. Projects that I had delayed finally reached my desk again. Clients noticed the difference. One afternoon, my manager stopped outside my office. "Got a minute?" I nodded. He placed a folder on my desk. "We've got a major development project." I opened it. It was the biggest contract our company had received all year. "I want you leading it." I blinked. "Me? You've earned it." A smile crossed his face. "You stopped apologizing for your ideas." That sentence stayed with me long after he walked away. I hadn't even realized I used to do that. With Claire, I apologized for working late. I apologized for speaking my mind. I apologized whenever my dreams didn't fit her plans. Somewhere along the way, saying sorry had become part of my personality. Now it wasn't. Olivia invited me to dinner after work. No fancy restaurant, just a quiet place with warm lights and good food. She noticed me reading emails instead of staring at old photos. "That's progress." I smiled. "Is it that obvious?" "You actually finished your meal before checking your phone." She leaned back. "A month ago, every vibration made you hope it was Claire. It still crosses my mind. But," I placed the phone face down, "I don't reach for it anymore." She nodded with quiet approval. Missing someone and chasing them aren't the same thing. Her words settled somewhere deep inside me. For years, I never understood the difference. Claire still tried to reach me. The first message arrived 2 days after the canceled wedding. "Can we talk?" Then another. "Please." A week later. "I understand if you're angry." Then longer messages followed. Stories. Memories. Questions. None of them blamed anyone else. That was new. I read every one of them. I answered none. Not because I wanted revenge. Because every reply would have pulled me back into the same place where my needs always came second. Daniel called one evening. "You've probably heard." "Heard what?" Mom finally admitted she pushed Claire toward Nathan. I closed my laptop. "Really?" It happened after another family argument. His voice sounded tired. She kept insisting she only wanted the best for Claire. And now she realizes she confused wealth with safety. I didn't know what to say. Some lessons arrive years too late. A few days later, Margaret surprised me. She stood outside my office building, holding a small paper bag. "I won't keep you long." I remained near the entrance. "What can I do for you?" Her eyes carried none of the confidence I remembered. "I owe you an apology." I stayed quiet. When Claire introduced Nathan, I encouraged her. She looked toward the busy street. I told her love fades. Her hands tightened around the bag. I told her security lasts forever. A sad smile appeared. I was wrong. The words sounded heavier than I expected. I helped convince my own daughter that choosing comfort over character was the smart decision. She handed me the bag. Inside was a framed photo. Claire and me, taken years ago during our first vacation. I found it in her closet. I studied the picture. We looked young, hopeful, completely unaware of where life would take us. She couldn't throw it away. Margaret's voice almost disappeared. Neither could I. She walked away before I could answer. That night, I placed the photo inside a drawer. Not on my wall, not in the trash, just somewhere it could rest without controlling my future. Life slowly became fuller. I met old friends again, started running in the mornings, visited my parents more often. Small things, ordinary things. They reminded me that happiness doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it returns quietly, one habit at a time. Then Claire appeared across the street. Not by accident. She had clearly been waiting. She wore simple clothes instead of expensive designer outfits. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, emotionally. She walked toward me. I won't take much of your time. I nodded. What do you need? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she watched people passing between us. My phone barely rings anymore. I stayed silent. The friends who celebrated my engagement. A bitter smile crossed her face. They disappeared before the flowers from the wedding died. She folded her arms against the cold wind. I thought they loved me. They loved the life they believed you had. She lowered her head. I know that now. Another pause settled between us. I finally read our old messages. My heart skipped once. All of them. She swallowed hard. I never realized how many times you reached out. I remembered those nights. Simple texts. Did you get home safely? I'm proud of you. Can we have dinner tomorrow? Most of them had stayed unread for hours. Sometimes days. I always thought you'd still be there. Her voice almost broke. I built my whole future around that belief. I didn't rush to comfort her. Not because I lack compassion. Because some pain has to be carried by the person who created it. I can't change what happened. I know. I don't expect you to erase it. The traffic light changed. People continued walking around us. Life moved forward while we stood still. She gave me a tired smile. I finally understand something. What? Regret isn't someone refusing to come back. She wiped at one eye. It's waking up every morning knowing your own choices destroyed the best thing you ever had. There was nothing cruel about her words. Nothing dramatic. Only truth. The kind that arrives after every excuse has disappeared. Weeks passed again. Her messages became less frequent. Then they stopped completely. Oddly enough, that worried me more than the constant notifications ever had. One rainy evening, someone knocked on my apartment door. I opened it. Claire stood in the hallway. A small backpack rested at her feet. She held 3 things in her hands. The old apartment key I had given her years ago. My gray hoodie that disappeared after one weekend together. And a small velvet box. The engagement ring I had bought long before she chose Nathan. She carefully placed everything into my hands. I found these while packing. Packing. The word lingered. You moving? She nodded. A fresh start. Neither of us smiled. She took one slow step backward. I promised myself I wouldn't ask for another chance. A deep breath steadied her voice. But before I leave, her eyes met mine with quiet honesty. Can you give me 5 minutes? If, after those 5 minutes, you still want me to walk away forever. She lowered her gaze. I will. The apartment suddenly felt smaller. Rain tapped softly against the windows while Claire stood just inside the doorway. The old key rested in my palm. My gray hoodie carried the faint smell of laundry instead of the perfume I remembered. The velvet ring box felt heavier than both of them. I stepped aside. You have your 5 minutes. She entered slowly, almost like a stranger afraid of leaving footprints behind. Nothing in the apartment looked the same as when she used to visit. The photos were gone. The extra toothbrush had disappeared months ago. Even the coffee mugs had changed. She noticed everything without saying a word. I placed 2 cups on the kitchen counter. Coffee. A faint smile appeared. You still remember how I take it. I remember a lot of things. Neither of us spoke while the coffee brewed. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It simply carried too many memories to ignore. She wrapped both hands around the warm cup. I've practiced this conversation 100 times. And every version sounded like another excuse. She shook her head. So, I'll tell you the truth instead. I waited. When we were together, I kept believing there would always be more time. Her fingers traced the edge of the cup. More time to appreciate you. More time to choose you. More time to stop chasing things that looked important. A tired laugh escaped her. I never noticed that tomorrow eventually ran out. I stayed quiet. She deserved the chance to speak without interruption. My mother wasn't the only reason I left. She lifted her eyes. It would be easy to blame family. It would also be a lie. She took a slow breath. I wanted certainty. I wanted a perfect future. I wanted people to admire the life I built. The words came easier now. I confused success with happiness. Her voice softened. And I confuse your patience with weakness. That sentence landed harder than anything else. Not because it hurt, because it was finally honest. I kept thinking. She searched for the right words. If I lost you, you'd wait. A small tear slipped down her cheek. I never imagined you would finally learn to live without me. I almost didn't. The answer came naturally. There were days I wasn't sure who I was anymore. She nodded slowly. I know. I saw it in your messages. Another quiet moment passed. I finally read every one. She reached in her bag and removed a folded piece of paper. It took me 6 years to understand something you wrote. She unfolded it carefully. I found this after packing. It was a printed copy of one of my old text messages. I barely remembered sending it. She read it softly. I don't need a perfect future. I just want to build an honest one with you. Her eyes closed. I ignored that because someone else promised luxury. She looked around my apartment. You promised peace. A deep breath steadied her. I chose the wrong dream. I walked toward the window. The rain had almost stopped. Streetlights reflected across the wet pavement below. You know what hurt the most? She waited. It wasn't losing you. My hand rested against the cool glass. It was realizing I spent years trying to earn a place in the heart of someone who already had it. I turned toward her. You loved me. She nodded. I know you did. But you never respected what that love cost. She lowered her head. I didn't. I kept expecting you to understand. I kept expecting forgiveness before changing. She wiped another tear away. That's not love. No, it isn't. She stood and picked up the velvet box. I never opened it. She placed it between us. I was afraid. Of marriage. She shook her head. Of an ordinary life. A sad smile crossed my face. I used to think ordinary sounded beautiful. I know. Her eyes filled again. I understand that now. The room grew quiet. Not with anger. With acceptance. She wasn't fighting reality anymore. She was finally meeting it. I don't expect another chance. Her voice remained calm. I only wanted you to know that losing Nathan wasn't my punishment. She pressed one hand against her heart. Losing the person who loved me before I earned success. She struggled to finish. That was... I believed her. There were no dramatic promises. No desperate attempts to make me stay. Only truth. It had arrived late. But it was real. I picked up the ring box. For years I imagined placing it on her finger. Now I open it one last time. The diamond caught the morning light beginning to appear beyond the clouds. Beautiful. Untouched. A future that never happened. I closed the lid. Then I walked to the bedroom. She didn't follow. When I returned, the ring was no longer in my hand. I put it away. Her eyes understood immediately. Not in my pocket. Not waiting for another chance. Just resting where it belonged. In the past. She stepped closer. So, a gentle smile appeared despite the tears. This is goodbye. I nodded. I think it is. She held out her hand. Not for romance. Not for hope. Only gratitude. I took it. Her grip lasted only a few seconds. Thank you. What for? She looked directly into my eyes. You saved my wedding. I couldn't hide my confusion. There wasn't a wedding. There would have been. She smiled sadly. And I would have spent years trapped inside a lie. She let go of my hand. You didn't save the ceremony. You saved my life. The words stayed with me. Because they were true. I hadn't destroyed her future. I had stopped her from building one on deception. Claire walked toward the door. Her hand rested on the handle. She glanced back one final time. I hope someone loves you the way you always deserved. A quiet breath escaped me. I hope one day you love yourself enough to stop chasing approval. She nodded. I'll try. The door closed gently behind her. No shouting. No dramatic ending. Only the soft sound of someone finally accepting the consequences of her own choices. My phone rested on the kitchen table. One notification remained. Our conversation. Years of messages. Thousands of words. Promises. Arguments. Jokes. Plans that never became reality. I opened the thread. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then I pressed one button. Delete conversation. The phone asked if I was sure. This time I didn't hesitate. The messages disappeared. Not the memories. Just the habit of living inside them. I opened the drawer beside my bed. The ring box rested inside. Next to it lay the old vacation photo Margaret had returned. I placed the apartment key beside both of them. The drawer closed quietly. Some chapters don't need to be burned. They only need to be finished. A new message arrived. Olivia. Breakfast? My treat. Big day today. I smiled. I'll be there in 20 minutes. No sadness followed that reply. Only anticipation. I grabbed my jacket and locked the apartment behind me. The hallway felt brighter than usual. Outside, the rain had ended. The first light of sunrise stretched across the city. Cars began filling the streets. People hurried toward new mornings. I joined them. Each step felt lighter than the one before. Not because my past had disappeared, because it no longer decided where I was going. Claire had taught me that love, without respect, slowly empties the heart. Life had taught me something even greater. Choosing myself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. As the sun rose higher above the buildings, I realized I had finally kept the one promise that mattered most. The promise to stop waiting for someone else to choose me. At last, I had chosen myself.